Moshe Rabbeinu chilek kohanim lishmona mishmarot. Moses divided the kohanim into 8 groups, 8 watches. By the way, how soon? Must have been towards the end of his life, because at the beginning there was only 3 of them. So it took time for the kohanim to grow. Arba'a me'Elazar v'arba'a me'Itamar. 4 from Elazar's descendants and 4 from Ithamar's descendants. V'chein hayu ad Shmuel Navi, until the times of Samuel. This was the case. Uvimei Shmuel chilkam hu v'David HaMelech l'arba'a v'esrim mishmar. I think it was sort of lopsided. It turns out that the Bnei Elazar were a lot more than Bnei Tamar, so it was basically 2/3 Elazar and 1/3 Itamar. It didn't help that the most prominent family of Itamar, the ones who held the high priesthood, were basically cursed, and they also suffered a major massacre. They had one of their cities destroyed, but that might not account for like the entire lopsidedness. But so happens sometimes you have successful generations and not. To give the example, the tribe of Dan had but one son, yet his tribe was well above average size the entire time the Jews were in the wilderness. Whereas, let's say, Binyamin had 10 sons, and his tribe was always one of the smaller tribes, below average. Okay, that's just how it works out. So they redivided them. It says Uvimei Shmuel, not that Shmuel himself did this, because it seems that David HaMelech started this on paper with Shmuel there, but this did not get put into practice until Shmuel had passed away. Chilkam hu v'David HaMelech l'arba'a v'esrim mishmar, v'al kol mishmar rosh echad mimuneh. Each mishmar of these 24 have one person appointed upon it. And by the way, that's the list that exists in Divrei Yamim. Volim Yerushalayim la'avodah, mishmar b'chol Shabbat. And they have a mishmar come to Yerushalayim, one mishmar every week. Yom Shabbat, hein mitchalfin. It's on every Sabbath that they switch them out. So there are basically 2 mishmarot present in the temple on the Sabbath day. Mishmar yotzei v'acher shehu acharav nichnas. The incoming group and the outgoing group. Ad sheyigameru. Okay, until they go through the entire cycle. The chozrim chalila, and then they continue the cycle again. So there's similar, and that number 24 is there, except there's a major difference. You're not going to have it that each Kohen group lines up with each Levi group because of a major, the next major halacha, which is umitzvah aseh lio kol mishparot shavim b'regalim. It's a positive commandment that all these mishparot hakehuna, the priestly groups, are all equal during the festivals. That's Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. V'chol she'yavo min hakohanim b'regel d'ratzah la'avod. Any Kohen who shows up during the pilgrimage, oved v'cholek imahem. He works with all the other Kohanim and he gets a share also. Ve'ein omrim lo lech ad she'yagia mishmarcha. We don't tell him, no, go until your mishmar, the entire group shows up, or at least a significant amount. Shneimar v'chiyavo levi me'achad sharech. It says when the Levi comes from one of your gates. By the way, in this parasha, the Levi there, as I'll point out, is not a Levite; it's a Kohen. Okay, it's talking about serving in the temple, so it's the Kohanim. It seems that this is, by the way, read the next pasuk, is talking specifically about Kohanim, not only because that pasuk is talking about Kohanim, because we don't find this halacha with regards to Leviim. That is, the Leviim who works on the regel, whichever Levi's turn it is, whichever Levi group. So you can understand if there's 24 Kohen groups and 24 Levi groups, eventually they get out of sync when? Every time there's a holiday, because there's only one group of Leviim there that week, but the Kohanim all show up on the holiday. We're talking about the sacrifices of the regalim. Dividing up the showbread. Or the bread that they bring on Shavuot. Regarding these Nidarim and Devot and only the Mishmar that's actually there that week gets to do these other sacrifices. Although, by the way, you could see an argument. I've never seen this done. Maybe the Levim also had a similar thing involved, that they would only work 1 week, and there was actually a group that worked specifically on the holidays, and it did line up with the Kohanim. It's not Mukhrach, though, from the Pesukim that he's bringing here. Here it says, Yochelu levad mim karav alavot. They're eating. He eats like all the other ones. This is the continuation of that pasuk that we saw before, that parsha we saw before. It's talking about the Kohanim coming to eat. Leviim don't eat anything in the temple. There's no such thing. Kolomar chelik kechelik yochelu b'kordo hatzibur. It's talking about to eat a fair share of the community's sacrifices. Ve'enan chelek kechelek b'shar dvarim, but they don't take their own portion in everything else. Shekvar chilku otana avot. Those were already divided up among the fathers. It means the house's fathers, the Beit Avot. V'kava'u otan kol mishmar b'Shabbato. Each mishmar has its week. Okay, Shabbat is once again a week. Doing the lechem apanim, that's a weekly Sabbath ritual. So that goes to the mishmar, how to actually do this, switching out the breads. Right? Remember the whole thing? They walk with the bread. We're going to see this. They push off the bread as these ones are putting the bread on. Okay, but the performance of the sacrifice regarding these special breads that are brought in Shavuot, that's all the mishmar can do that. How do I know this parsha is also talking about the pilgrimages, the 3 festivals? From one of your gates from among all of Israel. At a time when all of Israel comes into one gate, that is the festivals. That's when everybody shows up. I mentioned this before. How do we know that this rule applies strictly to the Kohanim? It says that they should all have an equal share in consumption, eating the sacrifices. The only gifts within the temple, things given to God or given to people to eat from God's table, so to speak, the only things that are eaten are things eaten by Kohanim. So it seems that these rules that the Rambam was mentioning, the mitzvah say shekol mishrot shavim bar-regalim, is only talking about specifically Kohanim and not Levim. Although you can make an argument, maybe they did it anyways. I don't know. I'd like to see, God willing, they should rebuild the temple, and we'll have an answer to this question.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.